Hi. So the first presentation will be about what is student engagement. So given that the title of this workshop is Designing for Engagement, um, we should probably start by defining engagement. What does it mean? And I can tell you that in my work group, we just had a discussion a few days ago about engagement, and we tried to define it. And we came up with really very different definition. And this is really the truth, is that engagement means different things to different people. So what is student engagement? So there are two main interpretations that are done by faculty members like you. So the first interpretation is that engaged students really care about what they are learning and they want to learn. So this interpretation really has to do a lot with motivation, I would say. Um, Now, the second interpretation is that engaged students are involved in the academic task at hand and are more used and are using higher order thinking skills such as analyzing information or solving problems. So this definition of engagement has to do more with doing or with active learning. So what is student engagement then? It can be viewed as the intersection of these two circles. So when a student is both motivated and also engaged in active learning, so it means that he is engaged now. So now let me give you two equations. So one really looks at engagement as the sum of motivation and active learning. And the second one looks at engagement as the product of motivation and active learning. So what do you think is the correct one? Think about it this way. If a student is motivated but is not doing anything, could he be engaged? So if the answer is no, it means that this equation is not correct, because with this equation it's possible to just be motivated and not do anything, and still you will have positive engagement. So really the correct equation is looking at it as a product, because if either motivation or active learning equals zero, it means that engagement should equal zero. And Bartley presented the double helix model of student engagement. So she moved away from this model of two circles and the intersection of two circles of motivation and active learning to a more model of really a strong relationship between active learning and motivation. And I will actually talk about it more in the next couple of days. And she actually provided also a definition, which is student engagement is a process and a product that is experienced on a continuum and results from the synergistic interaction between motivation and active learning. So how does student engagement look like? And this is actually a painting from 1889 showing students, and you can see, I'm not sure whether they are engaged or not, but they are sitting on a table with pencils and some notebook or something like that. There is one student here reading a book, a few students here writing on a board. So this is, I don't know if it's engagement, but this is how the classroom looked like. And this is a picture from the 50s of children taking a test. And you see that it looks quite similar to this picture. And this is a picture from now. So now I'm asking myself, did anything change? And this is how engagement should look like? This is a different picture. So now I see kids, and they're not sitting anymore, they're actually standing here, and it looks like they're working in groups, and it looks like they're actually doing something. So now maybe this is how engagement looks like. Something like working in groups. So let's really try to think about it deeper. we said that engagement is really linked to motivation and active learning. So let's try to answer the question, how does student engagement look like, by first answering the questions, how does motivation look like and how does active learning look like. So we will start with active learning. So active learning means that the mind is actively engaged, and an engaged student actively examines, questions, and relates new ideas to old. Now, today, active learning is actually an umbrella term that refers to several models of instructions, including cooperative and collaborative learning, discovery learning, experiential learning, and problem-based learning, and inquiry-based learning. And we will talk about some of these models tomorrow, actually. I still didn't get an answer to the question, how does it look like? And Edgar Dale was an American educationalist. He came up with the cone of learning, also known as the cone of experiences. And he created this cone, and at the top there are activities that are more passive, like reading, hearing words, seeing, watching a movie. And here at the bottom, there are activities that are more active, like participating in a discussion, giving a talk, doing a dramatic presentation, simulating the real experience, and doing the real thing. And what he examined is, after 2 weeks, we tend to remember 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we say, and 90% of what we say and do. So, did it convince you that active learning is really beneficial? Well, it certainly looks convincing, but I have to add a word of caution here. Because actually it was not Dale who wrote this number. He actually only gave this cone here, but he never did any sort of experiments that can result with these numbers. And he actually, there is a very nice piece here that I linked, and I really strongly recommend reading it. Now, if you've been in my Moodle workshop last year, I talked a lot about Think's key components of integrated course design, and there is a link to this article on your website. And he talked about first defining the learning goals, or first maybe looking at the situational factors, and then the learning goals, and then looking at teachers and learning activities and feedback and assessment. But specifically for teaching and learning activities, he made a distinction between active learning and passive learning. And let's look first at passive learning. So passive learning is receiving information and ideas. So this is really the traditional model of a student sitting in a classroom listening to a lecture. Whereas active learning can be divided to experience, and this can be divided to doing and observing, and also reflective dialogue with self and with others. So there is a lot of elements of here, if you look at this line, working with other people, whether it's observing or whether it's talking. And he presented a holistic view of active learning, which include experience, again, reflective dialogue, and also information and ideas. So whereas in the passive classroom, information and ideas were given by the teachers, in an active classroom, the information and ideas can be accessed in class, but also out of class, online, and so on. So we talked about active learning, and we know how active learning looks like. What about motivation? So Brophy defined motivation in the classroom as the level of enthusiasm and the degree to which students invest attention and effort in learning. So again, just like before, it's a product. So this effort here is really a product of expectancy and value. First, let's talk about expectancy. Students' expectancy is the degree to which they expect to be able to perform the task successfully. So if the expectancy is low, there is no motivation. So obviously, if I don't believe that I can do something, probably I will not do it. So if you look again at this equation, effort equals expectancy multiple value, so I will not invest any effort if my expectancy is very, very low. Let's talk now about the value. So students' value is the degree to which they value the rewards as well as the opportunity to engage in performing the task itself. What does it mean for me to be able to do it? Is it really important for me? So if it is, there is a really good chance that I will invest a lot of effort in it. So in summary, we talked about engagement and we tried to define it. So hopefully we defined it and we said that it is linked to motivation and to active learning. And with regard to active learning, we talked about different approaches that are under active learning. But remember, they are not the only one. And there could be really every type of activity, even reading, can be transformed to be active reading. And we talked also about motivation, and we talked about expectancy and value. So tomorrow, what we will do is actually go into more details and talk about different approaches that are used in active learning or to achieve active learning. And on Wednesday, we will talk about in more details about motivation. So if you have any questions, you can ask Adam. But seriously, please feel free to send me any questions by email or over the discussion board. So bye-bye for now.